everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of Networking Made Easy. Today, since it's our first episode, what we're going to do is use Packet Tracer and do a basic setup of a networking device. So now let's switch over to my desktop. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to be using Packet Tracer, and I'm using version 8.0.1, and we'll be using that throughout the duration of most of these classes. So as you can see, for the first class, for a basic setup, we're going to be giving one router and one switch. Starting off with, we're going to apply a host name. We're going to set up a enable password. We're going to create a few username and password. Sorry, there's a little bug flying by me. So we'll create a couple username and passwords. We'll encrypt those passwords, create secret passwords, and we'll do a couple banners, show you the difference. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we need to bring up a couple networking devices. So we'll grab a router, if I can grab it here. Alright, so we're going to use a 4331 router. Come down here to the switches. We're going to grab a 2960. And let's open these up. We'll bring the router over here. Just grab a switch. We'll bring that switch over here. And put these on top so they don't keep disappearing on me. Alright, so we're going to go into the CLI, command line interface. Now if you can see, zoom in here, for the router, it's going to ask you, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? Well, that's if you want to answer a series of questions to help set up your router. That's more or less for people that really don't know what they're doing, but kind of do, and just don't want to go through set themselves. But 99.9% of the time, you're going to say no to that. So we'll say no. And then that's going to say press return to get started. And then we'll zoom in over here on the switch. That's also going to say press return to get started. If you notice, the switch did not ask for the initial configuration dialog. That's okay. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Probably just the Packet Tracer doesn't have it doing that. Because a lot of switches are layer 3 switches, so they'll ask you for that. Alright, so we'll go back over to the router. We'll start with the router first. So we'll press return to get started. Now you see it says router with the greater than symbol. Now the router itself, written down there, is what is considered your host name. Obviously, you don't want router to be your host name, because what happens, you're administrator of a multi-building infrastructure where you got a router per building, so you got multiple routers. Well, how are you going to be able to tell the difference in which router you're logged into? So, of course, you want to give it a name. So, a router and a switch will start out with that greater than symbol, which means you're just in user exec mode. User exec mode, you can do some shell commands, but you can't do a whole lot. So like one that I know for sure, because I very rarely use this. So go over to the switch. So we're in user exec mode, so you can do like show VLAN, which we'll go over VLANs at a later date. You can see the VLANs on the switch. Not a problem. Well, what happens if I want to see the running config? Well, now it says invalid input detected at the marker. Well, it's because you're in user exec mode. To be able to do the show running config, you want to be able to go into privilege exec mode, where you get more privileges. Now you can display your running config. And as you notice, I just typed show run, or SHL for show, and run is short for running config. Networking devices let you do shortcuts like that, so you don't spend all your time typing everything out and you misspell it and stuff like that. So you can just type a few letters of it, as long as it don't match with anything else. So like if I did question mark, you can see show down there at the bottom. You can see show and SSH. So I at least have to type SH because there's setup, show, and SSH that begins with S. So I can't use the S to be able to tab it out. So if I type in S, it's just going to put S. If I put the H for the show, it'll tap. You can tab it out. If I put SS, it'll tap out SSH because nothing else starts with SS. So you got your tab function, and then just shortcuts. You can just type in a few letters. If you know how many letters is in the word, or add a few more, and that's what you got to type in, and you just move on to the next word. All right, so now you see switch also says switch, and then of course the pound sign means that you are in privileged exec mode, which is where we want to be for right now. So from here, we want to type in config T. Config T is short for configure terminal, which gets you into global exec mode. This is where you do your configurations on your networking device. Most configs you're going to end up doing is always going to be in the configuration mode. Now from here, if you notice, I can't do show run again. All your show commands has to be from privileged exec mode. So anytime you want to do that, you need to go back. You can type exit, and it'll bring you back. Or if you don't want to do that, oops, if I can write config mode, you can do show run, and then you can do your show commands that way. Alright, so now, as we said before, we don't want our switch to be called switch, because what if I have 5 switches in one closet? How do I know which switch I'm into? Or say you have a large campus and you have multiple closets with several switches in each closet. You can have like 50 switches on your campus. Well, how do you know which switch you're going to be into? So again, you want to give it a host name. So host name is very easy. Host name, and whatever you want to make your host name. We'll do networking made easy switch 1. So for your host name, make sure you label it something that's points directly to your switch. You can use what room number it's in, where it's at in the room, which IDF, MDF, however you want to label it. Just make sure it's can be easily identified by using its host name. You can use what floor it's on, all kinds of stuff. But for our simple configuration right now, we'll just use switch 1, which is fine. Alright, so now we'll move back over to our router, and we're going to do the same thing. Get out of user exec modes, get into privilege, and just go back into global config. And if I can write, so host name, network made easy, router 1. We'll just give it that for now. As we build on the network, we'll probably end up changing the host names so that way we can identify each switch or router or whatever device we have. Alright, so there's our host name. So now, if you notice, exit out of that again, one more time. Going from user exec mode over to privileged exec mode, we typed in enable, right? Well, what happens if you have users, someone that logs into the router? Well, you don't want them to be able to see your running config. You only want them to see a few things. So that's why you have your user exec mode. Well, now they're in enable mode because they can just type in enable and get right into it. Well, you don't want that. So what you want to do is give it a enable password and get caps locks off there. So we type in enable because that's what we want the password to be for. And then we're going to create a password for it. You can type in pass, or you can tab key for password, have it fill it in. And we'll just give it a simple password. Now these type of passwords you don't want to use on a live environment. They're too easy to guess. Someone can easily hack them. And there's really no point of even having it at that point. So just give it a just simple one just for our network, because it's packet tracer, and nobody cares about trying to even hack packet tracer because it's just a lab. Alright, so now let's move over to our switch. I'm going to do the same thing. If I can get that out of the way. Enable, pass, enable. So I have an enable password. So let's see if it works. Okay. Exit. Alright, so now we're back to user exec. Let's go into privilege exec. There we go. It asks for our password. So type in the password we just created, and now we're in. Switch over to the router. Make sure that works. Control Z will bring you out from config mode over to privilege exec, and then you have to type exit in to get back to user exec. Type in enable. Now we type in the password, and we're good to go. That works. Alright, so the next step is we're going to create a couple users on here. So we need to go back into global, configure terminal, and like I said, we're creating usernames and passwords. So we're going to create a user for username, and let's create Jane. And like I said, user password. So next step, password, and let's just do login with the 0 and exclamation point. Again, something you don't want to do in a live environment. And you can create multiple users for each person that you want logged in. Excuse me. Now, this isn't the only way to have username and passwords. You can have a AAA server, which you can have all your passwords stored on there, and then tell each device to look at your AAA server to be able to log in, so that way you're not creating username and passwords on each and every single device. But for now, since we don't have a AAA server set up, we're just going to do a local login. So again, so we'll create a second user for now, and let's just say Bob with password, and we'll make his different. We'll just do regular login, all lowercase. Alright, so now we'll go back over to the switch, get back into global, and we'll take the same thing. So you have to chain with login. Oh, another thing you can do if you're typing things, you can use the up arrow up and down. Hit up, it'll type in the last thing. So now we can just do pass login. So username Bob, password login, all lowercase. Alright, so now we just created 2 users. So now let's try to log in. Alright, so all the way back out to user mode. Let's go into privilege mode. Okay, get us, or we have to type in a password. That works. Now let's go into configure terminal. And guess what? There's no prompt for anything. Now why is that? Well, if you remember with the enable password, we told it what to use it for. We typed in enable password. We want it to be for the enable. So when you type in enable, it's going to ask you for your password. Now when you create a username and password, what's it being used for? We didn't specify. So now what we have to do is go in there and specify what we want it for. So to start off with, what we're going to do is we're going to connect it to the console line. Since we don't have any router or anything, so we're not going to set up for SSH, Telnet, stuff like that. Other things you can use to log into your router or your switch. So we'll just use a console port. So for the console port, line con 0, and you just do login local. Now, when we connect up a computer, which we'll do here in a second to test it out, it's going to ask us for, it should ask us for our username and password. So, line con 0, login local. If I just said, oh, before you get into that, so we'll test it out real quick. So what we're going to do, just bring up the laptop here, go back over, grab the console port, RS-232 port, to your switch, up to the console port. Alright, so now we're going to log in. Let's bring that to the top so we can see it. And I'll bring it over here so I can zoom in on it for you. Alright, so we're just going to go to our desktop. These are your different applications. So now what we're going to do, go to the terminal. 9600. Okay, everything's set up for a typical. Alright, so now you can see that we are into the switch. Exactly where we left off on the switch. There's a switch. You can see it's the exact same. So it's everything we've been doing. Alright, let's go back over to the computer. So we're going to type exit. We're going to get out of that. Exit out of that. Alright, so now you can see, now it's asking us for a username. Remember before we were able to just type in enable because it was at user exec mode. So now let's do Jane. And her password, let's see if I remember the right one. There we go, I remembered it. And now we are at the user exec. Type in enable. Now it's still asking us for our enable password. And now we're into the switch. And now we can do our configurations. So let's get out. Username. Let's go with Bob. And his is this one. And look, both of them worked. And there's our enable password again. Now we're into the switch. Alright, so now let's take our console cable and let's move it up to the router. Cable cannot be connected to that port. Oh, USB console, okay. So we're going down to the console. A lot of times in routers and switches you will have two different types of console ports. You will have a USB, which can be like a USB mini that's normally on the front that you can plug into. Or you can just have a regular RJ45 console port on the back, sometimes on the front, most time on the back. So now we're in that, so let's go back over to our terminal. Okay, so it closed out, so we'll get back into that. Let's go back into the terminal. Everything looks good. And if you noticed, we are in the router. Alright, so now let's exit out, go back to the very beginning, and look, it's asking us for our username. We'll try Jane with her password, and she works. And let's try Bob with his password, and it works. Enable. Now I messed up the password. If you notice, if you mess up the password, you hit enter, it's just going to ask you for it again. So I'll type it again, and that password works. Everything works, we are good to go. So now let's say, since we set up multiple users, they're in here, and they can go, you know, like Bob, he can go into, nope, I can't spell again. Figure terminal, and let's do show run. We want to see the running configuration. All right, so now if you notice, in plain text, clear as day, there's the enable password. Not good. Uh-oh, we're logged in as Bob. There's his password. But guess what? There's Jane with her password. Now, Bob can see everybody's password. And so can Jane. We don't want that, because now they can log in somebody else, make configurations to it, back it up to like their own computer, come out, and now they have a copy of running config, but they could be logged in as Jane to do it. Bob can log in as Jane, Jane can log in as Bob, and then get each other in trouble when it comes to the accounting purposes. Because Switch will tell you who logged in, who did what, stuff like that. So we don't want to have their passwords displayed. So there are two ways that we could do this. Let's see if Packet Tracer will allow this. So we'll just stay in our little terminal here. We'll log in as a router. We'll get out of that part. So what we can do is do user Bob, and what we'll do is do secret. Now let's say you're stuck here, okay, secret. Now do I gotta type in password, or do I just apply the password? Not really apply. Do I just type in a password? So if you hit the question mark, it will tell you. So you can say 0 unencrypted password that you're gonna type in. You got 5, which would be a hidden secret will follow. And then you just got a clear text password. Line means you just type it in. So let's try all of these. So user Bob secret 0. Let's see what comes after that. Should just be the password, right? Line be the password. So let's just make his secret with a capital S. So Bob's secret with the unencrypted secret will follow the password secret. Okay, so we can't have the same username on Packet Tracer with a unencrypted and encrypted password. So what we'll do is create a new user. So user Bill secret 0 secret. So let's see what it looks like on the running config. Do show run. Now you notice Bill has, even though we just made a secret, it is now encrypted. So now let's create a new user. User, let's see. Let's create Dave with a secret of, so we did 0, let's do 5, the hidden user secret string. And let's make his secret as well. And looks like I put, so now if you make a mistake, hit up, go all the way to the beginning, just type in no. Well, let's do this. Let's do show run. Alright, so now you can still see Dave's password in there. Plain as day. Even though it's a secret password, but because it said that a unencrypted or unhidden thing will follow after the 0. So now, I don't want that mark. So what I'll do is, you can type in no user. Do show run. And you see Bill is out of there. So now, we'll put that back, get rid of that thing, and we can, oops, that's still says no. There's Dave. Alright, Dave's recreated. So let's do user. What's a good username? Let's do Mike. The secret. The unencrypted clear text user secret. Wait, did we do 5? Yes, we did 5 and we did 0. So let's just do Mike with a secret of just secret. To show run. And there's Mike with the exact same secret as Bill. It just gives you, puts in a 5. So it actually is the same thing if you put in a 5 if you just do secret secret. So now since we have just regular passwords and we also have Dave with that one secret password, let's just say we don't want to switch this to a secret password. Another thing we can do, service password encryption. Now watch what this does. It encrypted Jane and Bob's normal password, but it did not touch Dave's. So now if you put it as, so do user Billy secret, so 0 would be the unencrypted. Is that what we said, 0? And then let's put no hide. Let's see. Okay. So there's Billy, another secret of 5. We did secret. So maybe we just did 5. Let's create username. And there we go. No hide, but still gives it a secret of 5. So if you use the 5, still puts it in clear text, even though you have encrypted the passwords and made it a secret, it still shows up in plain text. Why would you want to use that? No idea. You can see we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 users on this switch, or I'm sorry, on the router, with not any problems. If you notice, even the enable password has been encrypted. Alright, so now what we need to do, alright, as you can see now, try to zoom in a little bit more. So we did host names. Oops. Get out of that. We've done the host name. Did enable password. We created usernames and passwords. We did non-encrypted, which was just the user with password of password. That's a non-encrypted. Secret passwords. We went over all 3 of those. And then we did the service password encryption. So now what we have left is banners. Alright, so now there's 2 different banners. We'll go back over to our terminal. Alright, so just like the enable password, just like host name, all you're going to do is type in banner. And then from here, you can either do your login banner or your message of the day. Basically, message of the day, which we'll do first. Something that can change regularly, saying, okay, we're having a system update this day and this time. You can put that on there as message of the day. Or you can just put, hey, this is a restricted device. You are not allowed in unless we give you permission. So, message of the day, we'll just put, this is mine, keep out. Wait, what did I say at the bottom? Enter text message in with the character T. Why is it saying that? The reason it's saying it, so let me put T in there. Capital T, there we go. So that banner is going to look all jacked up now. Let's go down to where they got the banner. Banner. Chris is mine, keep out. Well, that's not exactly what we were trying to do. And you know we got T, and then a C there. Well, Chris is not mine, so that's not what we want to say. Why is that? Why couldn't we just type it in? Let's look at that. Banner, message of the day. So when you do a banner, you just pick any letter, any symbol, anything that's not going to be in the actual message of your banner. So if you notice, when I first did that, it put this is supposed to be this. This is mine, keep out. Well, it changed that T to a C, and if you look up here, enter text message in with the character T. T was the very first letter for this. So since that T was in there, it took it out starting off with. So if I would have had another capital T in there, that would have finished my banner. So you want to pick some kind of symbol, number, anything that's not going to be in your message. So we'll use the caret. How many times are you going to use a caret in a banner? Almost never. So we like to start off with the caret. And then we'll hit enter on that because that's going to start our banner. So now when it says enter your text, this is mine, keep out. So now since we started off with the character, and now if you notice, it's going to say end with that exact same character. So we'll put the caret in there, and now, oops, keep doing that, do show run. Banner message of the day. This is mine, keep out. So now it has been fixed. So what does the banner look like when you try to log in? Control Z, go out to privilege, exit, bring us all the way back out. Now if you notice, as soon as I hit enter get started, this is mine, keep out. There's your banner of the day, or your message of the day banner. So it's going to ask me for my username. Let's see, I can try to remember which, it's created so many users, I'm trying to remember which ones I used. So Bob, I want to say his was that. No, let's try again. No. Oh, that's for username again. Bob with the invalid too. Let's try Jane. There we go. Enable password. There we go. So now we have banner, login, same thing. We'll start it off with some random letter, number, use anything you want as long as it's not in your message. So again, I'm going to use the caret. It says enter text. This is the login banner. We'll hit enter, use the caret again to end it, and then we'll come out, go do show run again, and let's go down and look at this. Banner login, banner message of the day. This is the login banner, banner message of the day, this is mine. So what would it look like when we go to log in? Let's find out. Both displayed right there. Because we're logging in, and at the same time we're getting the message of the day. So now, let's move over to the switch. Let me pull, actually, let's minimize that. You can close that out. This to the console port. And let's bring this back up. Close that out so we can restart it. And we should be in the switch username. We only have 2 users on here because it's the switch. We didn't create all those usernames, and I don't think we need to. Let's see if I remember that. Okay, good. I remember the right one. Enable. Enable. Alright, so let's look at this. Banner. Now if you notice on the switch, we only got but one choice, banner message of the day. Just fine. So we'll just do banner message of the day, use our caret, and our text. This is mine, keep out. Now if you notice, I can actually put a second line. This is a second line. Here is, if I can spell, another line. And we can keep going all day long until you put in that caret. So do show run, go all the way down. There's our message of the day. So let's exit out of this. Press return to get started. There's our message of the day. And there you have it. Alrighty folks, so in this episode, what we have done, we created our host names on a router and a switch. We have created our enable passwords. We've created several username and passwords, went over what each type of encryption did, and we created banners. This is just a basic level 1 setup for any network device working towards CCNA, Network Plus, what have you. This is just your basic setup. As we move on, we'll go over different topics, configuring different things. Pretty soon we'll have it to where you can SSH into the router and switch from a laptop on a totally different network or a totally different campus, building, whatever you want to call it. And have multiple buildings set up, and we'll have all kinds of neat stuff going on. So we'll go through each topic covered on the CCNA. We'll go over some Network Plus stuff, and hope you can get a better understanding on how networks work. And that's all I have for today. So I hope you enjoyed my channel. Hope you enjoyed this class. And as always, if you like me, subscribe and hit that bell so you can get more notifications when I do all my classes. And I hope you have a great day. Take care.